Teen Movie Hell was published in 2019 as one of those encyclopedia-type reference book that collects a list of movies based on a particular theme. In this case, it's on one of my absolute favorite genres, the teen comedy, although this book's more specifically focused on so-called teen sex comedies, which is not a term I'm fond of. Not only is it creepy, but it also doesn't accurately apply to many of these movies. Most of them, yes, but not all. I'm not sure you can call The Breakfast Club a sex comedy, though I suspect that was only included to satisfy the author's anti-John Hughes agenda and absurd claim the movie ruined the genre. But anyway, teen sex comedy is how the book refers to them. So let's start with the scope and curation of the titles, because it's easily the most well-done part of this book. Primarily, it covers American movies from 1973 to 1993. I love that it's that specific, and I think the author has identified the perfect scope for a book like this and the theme. Because with these kind of genre books, the hardest thing to get right is that scope, because if you go too wide and you want to cover every teen comedy, it's too much, and it's really hard to draw the line because you run up against blurred lines, like what about dramas that feature a lot of comedy? How much of the movie's focus has to be on teens? Do you include foreign films? And if you open up the definition too wide, the collection just becomes watered down and loses any sort of identity. Conversely, you can go too narrow and only end up featuring like 50 movies that are probably already very well known to genre enthusiasts, and it's just not a worthy reference or discovery tool. Whereas the curation here probably strikes the best balance I've ever seen for this type of book in terms of maintaining a strong, focused identity while also ensuring the quantity of titles is very thorough and pleasing. It covers about 350 movies, which is great. Despite that, however, it's still not perfectly curated by any means. There are a few bizarre quirks as well as some flat-out unimpressive negligence. Of course, there are going to be movies that should have been included but have been missed. You know, you would expect the author of a book like this to be doing the most thorough research possible, but you can't expect them to find and include every single obscure title. That's understandable. What isn't is when he makes a passing reference to a movie that should unambiguously be in here but isn't, meaning he's obviously aware that the movie exists but didn't give it an entry. In fact, there's even a poster featured for a movie that doesn't get an entry. It all feels rather negligent and sloppy, but even worse is that any excuse of, oh, there wasn't enough space for everything doesn't hold up because some of the movies that have been included do not fit the established parameters. For example, there's a couple of non-English films thrown in here, a couple of movies from the 60s, and even a couple from the 1920s and 30s. What movies and for what reason it chooses to include a handful of titles outside the established scope seems to be, like so much of this book, based on the author's whim. In fact, there are a couple of movies included that aren't comedies, and even a few that aren't teen movies, which, by the way, it's sort of ambiguous if teen movie means movies about teen and college-age characters, or movies made for teens. Of course, the overlap of these two things accounts for like 95% of the movies, but it did have me questioning when titles were included that don't focus on characters under the age of 21. What makes a movie for teens distinct from just a regular comedy? You know, why is Police Academy in here but not Grease, which is an even weirder omission when the foreword is written by one of the actors. But anyway, overall, this book comes close enough to including pretty much everything it should, or at least is certainly the best single source for these types of movies. It even gives any alternate titles the movies are also known as, which is very helpful. Unfortunately, though, being a good list of these movies is the only thing this book has going for it.